Something else I don't get is how people be having certain conversations because our next story, right? Revolt News is a clip that's going viral. I believe the sister's name is Teslin. I want to get her name right. Teslin, I think Teslin Figaro. She was interviewing Quentin Latham, who's also known as Miss Funky Dineva, I think, if I'm not mistaken, which is a fun story because we went to school with him, myself and Jay, around the time, right? We went to school. I mean, back then he might have just been Quentin, but he eventually became Miss Funky Dineva, who's a part of, we'll say, the alphabet community. And he had a lot to say in an interview with Miss Teslin on the Revolt clip that I saw in regards to things like that Black men don't really bring nothing to the table but audacity. He was making the case that the ills of the Black community fall squarely, primarily on the shoulders of Black men, not just Black men, but heterosexual Black men, because he did make it a point to carve out that it wasn't, in his words, the gay boys that was part of the problem because they weren't gangbanging, they weren't selling drugs, they weren't, I guess, leaving baby mamas out there. So he framed it that women, Black women in particular, were doing their thing. The numbers and the statistics speak to that. So then when you look around, there's a conversation that needs to be had about how heterosexual Black men were falling short. It was an interview with a Black woman and a Black man who's a part of the community. So I guess my question to y'all is, what are y'all thoughts about this clip, right? I'm gonna leave it there because I think if I continue to talk, I might start getting into my takes. So what are y'all thoughts about all of the things that Miss Funky Dineva or Mr. Quentin Latham had to say about Black men and them falling short in the Black community, heterosexual ones in particular? Come on, guys, not all at the same
Yeah,
time,
I'm going to
please.
defer to one of the men at first to speak on this.
Right, I mean, come
For
on,
the
right?
men.
Y'all pussy? Y'all gonna let him talk
Look,
to you
man,
like that?
I
Wow.
Devin go
Pussy.
first. I already went in. Come on, Devin. I'm gonna let you do it before I do my thing. Go ahead.
Listen. Jay, your whole table is shaking, my God. I thought we talked about that. Now
I'm
he got
excited.
you shaking in your
You got me. I'm
table.
excited.
shook.
I'm shaking my table.
He
You know what?
got
That's
you
what
shaking
happened.
in your
That's
table.
what happened. I be shaking it. Shaking my.
Go ahead, Delvin. He threw it up to you. What's up, man?
Listen, I'm just wondering, why is he in the group chat on this particular topic? I mean, I'm not even saying he's wrong. It's just like, you know what? Why are you in the group chat? Because if he's gonna make a carve out for, I guess, the Black men he's interested, and that's fine. That's cool. If we can let non-heterosexual Black men in the chat, well, why stop there? Why can't we have the white queens in the group chat? Why can't we make carve outs for everybody? Why can't we have other additional people in the group chat? Other people have something to say about this topic. I understand, he's trying to, he sided with the sisterhood. I get that. There's a little overlap in there, and they're both kind of interested in men. And, you observe some things in the community growing up. Totally understand all of that. But I don't think he really has a dog in a fight. I'm not really sure why he's even commenting on it. But, it's a story, That's my take.
Yeah, so you show way more grace than I was gonna give, and I
I'm
wanted the
trying to
brother
show
to have
grace,
some
man.
air.
It's
I
Juneteenth.
wanted him to have some air, man, before I say what I got to say, because brother or Quentin or Latham or whatever, I'm not calling the man delicious, so it ain't gonna happen. So you get the reference. Listen, the brother, the dude's trying to go viral, or whoever is going viral on the audacity of straight men, and I challenge them on their audacity to even be in this conversation not because of their preference. Not because of that, but because of the premise. The premise of their argument was, well, you don't see gay guys gang banging and da 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 until you saw The Wire and that great actor played that part, or other things. You didn't really conceive of homosexuality in certain sections because the stigma, right? The stigma that exists in the Black community anyway. There are some areas where there is not a lot of prominent homosexuality because of stigma, not because of whatever. Now, if those areas have vices in them, it doesn't mean that heterosexual men are more prone to vice. It just means this is the area where there are heterosexual men. I feel like the way he positioned the whole thing, like studies have shown, men are traditionally actually more committed in relationships than women, right? And generally the women tend to be the problem, even in the same-sex relationships between women, or monogamous, or heterosexual sex between women, relationships. It's still, women are generally the problem. That's what I'm saying. And I know it sounds sexist, but we got to stop making aesthetic vulnerability for intellectual honesty. Like he wasn't being. We say it was vulnerable. Say he was being candid, but really it's just trash. It was just trash. It was one sided and slighted, and I don't know why he's in the room talking. If we're going to have that talk, then let's all do it, and let's be honest that we're all the problem. If we're not healed individuals, let's just make it that. Let's not keep this divide going. This is like the Willie Lynch letter in a pink jacket and a white polo shirt. You know, that whole separate the sexes, the gender warfare that we're talking about. He's just another grenade lobbed into the middle of it. Go ahead. What are you saying?
So I'm going to say this. First of all, I understand where you're coming from. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you why he got a dog in this fight. Because he is attracted to men too. So maybe he's experiencing the same thing that some women are experiencing. And because he's attracted to men, I guess that would be where he's saying they come with some audacity, although he was talking about the heterosexual relationship, which was a little bit weird there since he was referring to the heterosexual relationship. And so with that being said, though, he still had a point about audacity. Because basically what he's saying is, first of all, the audacity comes in is not what the men ask for, is when and how they ask for it. So, for example, a man with no job, no car, no ambition, asking for a submissive wife, asking for a submissive energy to bring it, or, asking for peace and whatnot, but they offer no job. They have no car, at least. And so you're asking for this. So it is audacity that allows these men to ask for certain things when they themselves are not bringing anything to the table. And I think that's the audience that he was pretty much talking about. Not all men. He actually made a point to say he's not talking about all men. He's talking about some men. And so it's like this unchecked confidence. But some women would like to call it delusion. In his case, he's also calling it delusion and audacity, that they are qualified to ask for certain things when they themselves don't even have the qualifications to ask for those things. It's kind of where the conversation was leaning towards, and that's the way that I was taking the conversation. And I think this is important because while he's gay or part of the LGBTQ community, he can still speak on the insights that he may personally have based on his observations as a man. And to be honest, men should check other men. Men should have conversation with other men, which is why I found it weird when he said this should be a conversation among straight men versus just a conversation amongst men, because he is a man the last time I checked, unless he decided to change and do some other things with his body and pronouns and whatnot. But either way it goes. So I do think he's valid. And I think that at the end of the day, what's being said was the audacity piece, I believe is correct. His premise for the audacity piece, I think, was the over the generalization of stereotypes and narratives that continues to harm our community. And that's the part that I was more concerned about, was this whole generalization of Black men selling drugs, Black men abusing women, Black men doing this, Black men doing that, and Black men not doing this and Black men not doing that. It's that overgeneralization that I was more concerned about when we talk about the audacity. But hell yeah, men got audacity. Hell yeah, because some men just want submissive providers. Some men want to be the head of the household, and all they bring to the table is dick. So yeah, he has a point on that part. But like I said, my issue was the overgeneralization.
Well, here's the thing. If he, wants to say, men should kind of check men or address men, and women kind of address women, I'll even go so far as him addressing women, because that's just kind of the camp he's put himself in. I think it would have been more helpful for him to ask, why is the audacity? We know these guys exist. Ladies, why do you guys keep fucking these guys? Why having sex with them? Why do you guys keep making babies with these guys? Guys who are no money, no job, uh, ass whoopers and felons. Like, why do you have the audacity to keep jumping up and down on these guys? That would have been more helpful, but he's not going to do that because he would have got ran out of the ladies group chat.